Welcome to this quick tip video on emailing T4s and Releve 1s for Sage 300 Canadian Payroll. My name's Anne from Orchid Systems. Today we're going to run through the configuration required to email T4s and Releve 1s, tips for how to test the configuration, how to email the T4s and Releve 1s, and tips for T4s and Releve 1s when upgrading Canadian Payroll and EFT processing. The required configuration is primarily what report to use, so you need to configure which of the reports from the CTXXA directory, where XX is the version of Canadian Payroll that you're running. You also need to configure which email address you want to use for the employee. You can either use the email address on the EFT employee or the email address on the Canadian Payroll employee. But if you set it to print, then no T4 or Releve 1 is emailed or printed. You can optionally password protect the PDFs that are sent to the employees. To enable this, you go to EFT Options on the Payroll tab and you turn on the password protection. You can define an overall formula for all employees, or you can have an employee by employee password entered on the employee's record. And in order to send out PDFs with a password, you need to be using SMTP for your payroll emails. You also need to configure the email message template that you want to send with the T4 or the Releve 1. The first configuration you need to do is to determine which report that you want to use for your T4 and your Releve 1. You must go to EFT Setup, Options, and on the Default Advice tab, you need to specify which report to use for your Releve 1 and which report to use for your T4. And these reports must be selected from the latest product update and version that you're running from the CTXXX directory, depending on the version and the product update that you're on. So it is the government reports from the CT73F, for example, directory that you're selecting. If you are not sure which report to use, what you need to do is go to your Canadian Payroll, go to the government reports, and run the T4 and Releve 1, and make the selection Employees, the Employees plain paper, and the Crystal Report Preview shows you the path and file name. And you would do the same thing for the Releve 1. You would preview the report and get the path and file name from the Crystal Report print preview. The next configuration you need to do in EFT Employees is to specify which email address you want to use, and this is for the payslips, the T4s, and the Releve 1s. So you can select to use the EFT email, or you can use the payroll email, which is the email address on the employee's record, or you could select mail. If you select mail, the T4 or the Releve 1 will not be emailed or printed. So you need to print those through the standard Sage 300 government employee report if you select mail. If you want the PDF attachment to the email to be password protected, then in EFT Options, on the Payroll tab, you can select Use Remittance Advice Password. And if you are wanting to attach a password, you do need to ensure that on the Email tab that you fill in your SMTP email details, as it is required for us to be able to manipulate the file and apply a password. And once you have selected Use Remittance Advice Password, and it is the same password that applies to the T4, the Releve 1, and the payslips, then you can specify a formula which can be applied to all employees' attached PDF. In this case, the left three most characters of the employee's number and the right three most numbers of their Social Security number. And this password will be applied to all the employees' PDFs unless we overwrite it again on an employee by employee level. And if you want, you can type in a master password here, and this master password will then be able to open any of the attached PDFs. So this is the password that will apply unless on the EFT employee you go and type in an individual formula or just text, which will be the password that will apply for this particular employee only. And the final piece of configuration you need to do is to define the email message templates to be sent for your T4s and Releve ones. And here you can use variables which are defined in the help in both the subject and the body. And there is a quick tip video running through all the variables that you can use. So you can use variables from the EFT employee and variable from the company record. In terms of testing your configuration, we recommend you send all the employees' emails or a large range of the employees' emails to a tester's email address. So first you would go to the EFT employee or the employee record and export their existing email address. And then import a tester's email address for all the employees or the range of employees. Then go ahead and print the payroll T4s and print the payroll Releve ones, depending which report you're running. And you can then use the known email address to check the attached PDF contents, check the PDF password, and check the email subject and body. And once you're happy with your report format, then you can import the employee's real email address and then run the process. In terms of testing your configuration, we recommend that you go to your EFT reports and prior to running either your Releve 1 or your T4, what we recommend you do is go to your EFT employee or your employee, depending where your email message is set up, and export all the details or export the employee ID and the email address, and then change all your employees to your own or to the tester's email address so that you can email the Releve ones and the T4s to a known address so you can check the contents of the reports and the email message template. So once you export the email address that belongs to the employees, you would import your own email address for all of the employees' details and then go to the EFT reports and go to the Releve 1 and the T4 and go ahead and email them. And then once you're happy with the results, then you could go back and re-import the employees' email addresses. To run the T4 and Releve 1, you go to EFT Processing, EFT Reports, and print the payroll T4 or print the payroll Releve 1. And when you run the report, you confirm the delivery method must be employee, you confirm the report that's going to be used, and then you confirm the email message template ID that you're going to use, and then you'd select the remaining options as per the equivalent Canadian payroll government reports option for the T4 and the Releve 1. So when you come to run the T4, you would select the employee delivery method. This report defaults from the EFT options, but can be overridden if required. Normally does not need to be overwritten. You select your email message ID and then fill in the parameters as if you were running this report on the Sage side. So you fill in the parameters the same way that you would run when you're doing your T4. You'd use these same parameters and then click email. And the report will be run one by one. And when you click print, the report will be run multiple times, once for each employee and emailed. And when looking at the Releve 1, You do a similar thing. You ensure the report is correct, select your message template, and then fill in the parameters the same way that you would for if you were to run this report from the Government Reports menu. When it comes to upgrading or even applying product updates for Canadian payroll, what's very important to check is that the same report is still being used for the Releve 1 or T4. So you need to run the employee version of the Releve 1 or T4, use the Crystal Reports previewer to check the file name, and just make sure it's the same one that you've got set up in EFT Options for the Default Advices tab. If the report has been changed and is using a different file name in Sage 300 Canadian Payroll, then you need to make the same change on your EFT Options. And if you've done any customizations to that form, you need to redo them. So always go back to the Sage 300 standard version or released version and redo any changes you may have done. For example, when emailing T4s to employees, you get the T4 details and a summary page, and you may choose to suppress the summary page. And if you look at our knowledge base, there's an example showing you how to suppress the T4 summary page when sending to a single employee. Thanks for watching this quick tip on emailing T4s and Releve 1s. For more information on EFT processing and any of our modules, please go to orchid.systems.